Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I want to speak about something that concerns all of us as students and as citizens: the difference between knowledge and information. We live in a world overflowing with information. With just one click, we can search for facts, statistics, or news. Social media provides endless streams of posts and headlines. It sometimes feels like we are drowning in information. But here is the paradox. Even though we have more information than any generation before us, we do not necessarily have more knowledge. So what is information? Information is data. It can be numbers, names, dates, or events. Information tells us what happened, but it often does not explain why. It is like pieces of a puzzle spread across a table, without connection, without meaning. And what is knowledge? Knowledge is when those pieces come together. It is when we connect facts, understand their context, and ask what they mean. Knowledge allows us not only to memorize, but also to think, to reflect, and to apply what we learn. Information may tell us that the temperature today is 35 degrees. Knowledge helps us ask why it is so hot, how climate change is involved, and what we should do about it. This difference matters. Without knowledge, information can mislead us. A rumor online may look like information, has words and pictures. If it lacks truth, it is not knowledge. Fake news spreads because people treat information as if it were knowledge. That is dangerous for individuals and for society. In school, we face this problem every day. Some people say memorization is unnecessary because we can look everything up online. But education is not just about collecting information. It is about learning to think critically, to evaluate sources, and to understand meaning. A student who copies an answer from the internet may have information but not knowledge. True learning is about transformation, not just storage. We can also ask about AI. Machines can process huge amounts of data. They can generate text, summarize articles, even answer questions. But does that mean they know? Most of us would say no. AI can use information, but it does not understand in the way humans do. That responsibility, earning information into knowledge, still belongs to us. So what should we do? First, we must learn to slow down. Instead of just scrolling, we need to ask questions. Is this information true? What does it mean? How should I use it? Second, we must remember that knowledge requires effort, discussion, reflection, even doubt. And third, we must connect what we learn to our lives so that knowledge becomes wisdom. In the end, the difference between information and knowledge is simple, but powerful. Information is everywhere, but knowledge is what we build from it. Information fills our minds, but knowledge shapes our judgment. Information is easy. Knowledge is hard. But it is knowledge that allows us to live responsibly and wisely. That is why, as students and as future citizens, we must not settle for information alone. We must seek knowledge. Thank you.
All right, listeners, today we're spinning a track that cuts through the noise of our time. The difference between information and knowledge. In an age where data pours into our pockets every second, it feels like we're swimming in connection, headlines, feeds, and facts. But here's the paradox. Never before have we had so much information, and never before have we struggled so much to truly know. Let's start with information. Imagine a river, wild and endless. Every second, millions of drops fall in. Tweets, posts, videos, statistics, breaking news. Information is fast, fragmented, and often shallow. It tells us what happened, but not always why. It shows us the headline, but not the story. And sometimes, it's not even accurate. It just spreads, amplified by the beat of algorithms. Information is like raw sound, loud, constant, sometimes overwhelming. Now let's flip the record and talk about knowledge. Knowledge is not just sound, it's music. It's when scattered notes form a melody. When rhythm finds structure, when noise becomes meaning, knowledge connects facts into patterns, gives them context, and allows us to judge their truth. While information can tell us, the temperature today is 35 degrees, knowledge helps us ask, why is this heat wave happening? And what does it mean for our future? Knowledge is interpretation, understanding, and sometimes even wisdom. Why does this distinction matter? Because living only on information can leave us confused, anxious, and misled. Think about fake news. A viral post may look like information, has words, numbers, even pictures, but if it lacks truth, context, or reliability, it is not knowledge. Or consider health. A flood of statistics on diets, exercise, or medicine may overwhelm us, but knowledge is knowing how to apply it responsibly to our own lives. Without that deeper layer, we risk mistaking noise for truth. In education, this matters even more. Students today have search engines at their fingertips, yet access to information is not the same as learning. Copying facts is not the same as understanding. True education is about turning information into knowledge, asking questions, checking sources, finding meaning. A Wikipedia article is a start. Discussion, reflection, and critical thinking make it knowledge. So where does AI fit in? AI can process information at lightning speed. It can summarize, generate, and even predict. But does that mean it knows anything? Not exactly. AI deals in patterns of data. It can mimic knowledge, but it does not live the experience of understanding. The responsibility to transform information into meaningful knowledge still falls on us. And here's the kicker. If we don't make that transformation, AI may amplify misinformation faster than we can correct it. The challenge is not just creating more data, but creating deeper discernment. Let's not forget the personal side. In our daily lives, information overload can leave us feeling scattered. Scrolling through endless feeds gives us fragments. A joke here, a headline there, a shocking image 2 seconds later. Knowledge, by contrast, comes from slowing down, asking, what does this mean? What do I do with it? Knowledge helps us navigate, not just react. Here's a beat worth holding on to. Information is power only when it becomes knowledge. Data is raw, but knowledge is refined. And wisdom. That is the remix we create when we live out our knowledge with values and purpose. So as we close this set, let me leave you with a challenge. Next time you scroll through your feed, ask yourself, am I just collecting information, or am I seeking knowledge? Am I consuming noise, or am I building understanding? Information is easy. It flows everywhere. Knowledge is harder. It requires effort, reflection, and sometimes doubt. But it is also what makes us human. Stay curious, stay critical, and keep transforming noise into meaning. That's the difference between being drowned by the stream and learning to ride the rhythm. That's today's set. Catch me on the next track where we turn from information to wisdom and ask, how do we draw the line between knowing and truly living?
Let us begin with a puzzle of our time. We live in an age where access to information has never been easier. With a smartphone in our hand, we can summon facts, statistics, and breaking news within seconds. Algorithms feed us streams of data tailored to our preferences. By some measures, this is the most informed generation in human history. And yet, we must ask, are we truly more knowledgeable? Here lies the paradox. The abundance of information does not necessarily translate into the presence of knowledge. The two are not the same. To confuse them is to misunderstand the very nature of learning, judgment, and wisdom. So let us explore this distinction together. What is information? What is knowledge? And why does the difference matter so profoundly for our democracy, our morality, and our humanity? Information is fragments. Information is, at its core, data. It can be a headline, a number, a statistic, a post on social media. It is immediate, often fragmented, sometimes decontextualized. Information tells us that something happened, that inflation rose by 3%, that a storm is approaching, that a celebrity made a controversial statement. But by itself, information does not tell us what these events mean. In fact, the very design of modern media platforms rewards speed and novelty. We are bombarded with breaking news alerts, trending hashtags, viral images. Each bit of information calls for our attention, but rarely invites us to linger, reflect, or connect the dots. We become consumers of fragments. Knowledge as meaning. Knowledge, by contrast, is not about fragments, but about patterns. It is the act of situating information within a context, of discerning its reliability, and of asking what it implies. Knowledge is not passive reception, but active engagement. It requires critical thinking, interpretation, and sometimes skepticism. To know is not simply to recite facts. It is to understand their significance. It is to ask not only what happened, but also why did it happen, and what should we do about it? If information is like raw ingredients, knowledge is the meal we prepare when we combine, cook, and season them with judgment. The ethical stakes. Why does this distinction matter? Because a society saturated with information, but impoverished in knowledge, is vulnerable to demagoguery, to misinformation, to manipulation. We have seen how easily falsehoods spread online, how conspiracy theories thrive, how citizens can be misled by what appears to be information, but lacks the grounding of knowledge. Consider democracy. A well-functioning democracy depends not only on citizens having access to information, but also on their ability to deliberate, to weigh evidence, to distinguish fact from opinion. Without this capacity, citizens may be informed in the sense of knowing what was said, but not knowledgeable in the sense of judging whether it makes sense. Democracy without knowledge risks degenerating into a contest of competing fragments. Information and education. Nowhere is the confusion between information and knowledge more evident than in education. Some argue that because search engines can deliver any fact instantly, students need not memorize or study deeply. Why bother learning dates, formulas, or concepts, they ask, when everything is available online? But this argument misses the point. Education is not about stockpiling information. It is about cultivating the capacity to make sense of it, to test it against evidence, to integrate it into a framework of understanding. A student who can Google the answer may have information, but without the ability to explain, apply, and critique it, they do not yet have knowledge. Plato recognized this danger long ago. In the Phaedrus, he warned that writing, by externalizing memory, might produce only the appearance of wisdom, not wisdom itself. Students would receive a quantity of information without proper instruction, he wrote, and they will imagine that they have come to know much, while for the most part they will know nothing. Replace writing with the internet, and the warning feels eerily contemporary. Information, knowledge, and AI. What about artificial intelligence? Can we say that AI possesses knowledge? Certainly, AI can process vast amounts of information. It can generate essays, summarize texts, predict outcomes. But is this knowledge, or only the manipulation of data? Here we face a philosophical question. Is knowledge simply the ability to arrange and deliver information, or does it require understanding? Most would agree that knowledge requires more. It requires awareness of meaning, recognition of truth, and even ethical reflection. AI can imitate knowledge, but it does not know in the human sense. The responsibility to turn information into knowledge remains ours. Knowledge as a moral practice. This leads to a deeper point. Knowledge is not only cognitive, but also moral. To seek knowledge is to care about truth, to resist easy answers, to engage with complexity. It demands patience, humility, and the willingness to admit what we do not know. Information, by contrast, tempts us with immediacy, with certainty, with the illusion of mastery. Here lies the challenge of our time: to cultivate citizens, not merely consumers of information; to encourage reflection, not just reaction; to value depth over speed, discernment over novelty. Closing challenge. So let us return to the paradox with which we began. We are flooded with information, but do we have knowledge? And more importantly, do we have the wisdom to use it well? This is not a question technology can answer for us. It is a question we must answer as citizens, as educators, as human beings. The future of democracy, of community, even of meaning itself, depends on whether we learn to transform information into knowledge, and knowledge into wisdom. So I leave you with this question. The next time you scroll through your feed, are you informed or are you knowledgeable? The difference may decide not only how you live your life, but also how we live together.